Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa baraka ala Rasulillah. Wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. Amma ba'd. Moving forward to hadith number 45 in Kitab al-Wudu, or the Bab al-Wudu of Kitab al-Tahara. Hafidh bin Hajar, the author, may Allah have mercy upon him, states, وعنه رضي الله عنه أنه قال كان النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم إذا توضأ أدار الماء على مرفقيه. أخرجه الدارقطني بإسناد ضعيف. Jabir ibn Abdullah radiallahu anhu also narrated that whenever the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam performed wudu, he would make sure that he washed his elbows. Adar al-ma'a ala mirfaqayhi. He would put water on his two elbows. He would make sure that the water would go upon his elbows. This hadith is collected by ad-Daraqutni, and his chain of narration is weak. His chain of narration is weak. Once again, وعنه رضي الله عنه أنه قال كان النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم إذا توضأ أدار الماء على مرفقيه. أخرجه الدارقطني بإسناد ضعيف. Jabir radiallahu anhu narrated that the Prophet ﷺ would place water upon his elbows whenever he performed the wudu. This hadith can be found in a collection of hadith made by an imam whose name is ad-Daraqutni. Ad-Daraqutni. And he states, the author, Ibn Hajar, that this hadith is, its chain of narration is weak. Its chain of narration is weak. طيب. The main lesson from this hadith is that from the deen, from the sunnah, from the ibadah, when a Muslim makes wudu, is to make sure that he washes his elbows. The elbows and the forearms, it's all supposed to be washed. It's all supposed to be washed, and it isn't supposed to be ignored or neglected. Whether that is obligatory or recommended, but it's a part of the wudu. That's the main lesson from this hadith. That's the main fiqh usage of this hadith. A few points with regards to understanding this hadith. Some of the terms that are used, it being weak, so on and so forth. So first and foremost, it's collected by ad-Daraqutni. Who is ad-Daraqutni? Every Muslim should know that there are different types and there are different levels of hadith compilers and hadith collectors. We know of Bukhari. This hadith is collected by al-Bukhari. This hadith is collected by Muslim. Some Muslims, laymen, 9 to 5 Muslims, who may be a little more self-respecting, they read or they study or they listen, and they know that there are other hadith compilers, such as Abu Dawood, Ahmed, Malik in his Muwatta Malik is a hadith collection. And from those scholars, those great illustrious scholars, is an imam whose name is Daraqutni. Just like Bukhari, Tirmidhi, no different. Now, this hadith compiler is a little different, whereas he lived and died later on. He did not die in the 3rd century like Bukhari did, like Muslim did, like Tirmidhi did, like Nasa'i did, like Imam Ahmed did. Neither did Imam Malik. Imam Malik died before the beginning of that century. Daraqutni is from the 4th century. All right, the 4th century. So let's read a little bit about his name, his lineage, his genealogy, who he was. the commentator of Bulughul Maram, Sanani states, هو الحافظ الإمام الكبير والعديم النظير في حفظه. قال الذهبي في حقه هو حافظ الزمان أبو الحسين علي بن عمر بن أحمد البغدادي الحافظ الشهير صاحب السنن. So first and foremost, this man, ad-Daraqutni, is no small fry. He's a big name in the long, rich, wide, vast world of Hadith. He was one of the greatest of the greats. And he says that al-Dhahabi, who died obviously later on in the 8th century, the great historian, the great muhaddith, he said that ad-Daraqutni was Adimun Nadir. No one was like him. He was by himself. He was in a class by himself. No one could touch him. No one could come close to his skills, to what he was and what he had. MashaAllah. And his hifd, his memorization was unknown. It was unknown. Okay? He quotes the Dhahabi saying about him, Huwa Hafidhu Zaman. His era, his time, he was the greatest. He was the greatest hadith master of his time. So as a layman Muslim, a 9 to 5 Muslim, without knowing Arabic, without studying, without, there's somebody of this caliber, it's unnecessary for him to be unknown. It's unnecessary for him to, I've never heard of him, right? And no disrespect or taking anything from Imam al-Bukhari, but Daraqutni of his age was like Bukhari of his age. Understand? Okay. So that's first and foremost. His name was, his kunya was Abu Hussein, and his first name was Ali. Last name or father's name was Umar, Ali ibn Umar. Grandfather's name was Ahmed, and he was from Baghdad, al-Baghdadi. He was Baghdadian or Baghdadi. And obviously, when we say tabaqatul nasab, levels of genealogy, one's name, one's tribe, one's family, one's clan. Daraqutni was the town or the city from which he hailed. Darqutn, one may say the house of cotton. Al-Hafidh al-Shahir is well-known hadith grandmaster, hadith prodigy, Sahib al-Sunan, and he wrote a book, a popular book, a famous book, a collection of hadiths, which is called As-Sunan. As-Sunan. So just like we have Sunan Abu Dawood, we also have Sunan ad-Daraqutni. And it's very important, even for the layman, 9 to 5 Muslim, to realize that Bukhari was not the only hadith compiler. And hadith compilation, hadith collection, writing books on hadith did not start with Bukhari, nor did it end with Bukhari. Now, a person may say, well, you have something personal against Imam al-Bukhari. Why are you attacking him? Why? It's nothing against Bukhari. We love Imam al-Bukhari. We love his book. We're trying to be like him, follow his footsteps. But it's about the ignorant masses of people, the ignorant sheeple of the Muslim and non-Muslim alike, who think and feel that Islam is going to survive or be ruined and destroyed because of Bukhari. And that's a big problem if the Muslim believes that. Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu, what did he do with Khalid bin Walid radiallahu anhu wardah? He removed him. I won't say the word he sacked him, but he removed him. Why did he remove him? Because he wanted to show the Muslims that victory is not because of Khalid. There were victories before Khalid, and there were great victories after Khalid radiallahu anhu ardah, Sayfullah. Naam. So whenever people get caught up and hung on one person, thinking that the deen began with this person, and if they die, and if they're wounded, if Bukhari's book is refuted, if there's a weak hadith in Bukhari's book, if Bukhari's book is made up, then Islam will be destroyed and ruined. That's wrong. let alone the fact that hadith sciences are far, far, far more rich than what people think and make them to be. And there are so many different benefits to gain, so many lessons to walk away with when you understand this. Now, very important. And the same applies to fiqh. It isn't anything against Abu Hanifa. It isn't anything against Malik. It's nothing against Shafi'i. It's nothing against Ahmed. We love those imams. We are trying to be like them, following in their footsteps. Their great, great legacy. But it is disrespect to Islam and to the Muslims. And it is shortening the legacy of fiqh to think and to feel and to believe, let alone say that fiqh began with Abu Hanifa. And that fiqh and imamship died with Ahmed. That's wrong. There were great ulama way before Abu Hanifa. And there were great ulama way after Ahmed. That's the moral of the story. Okay? So Islam isn't contained. Everything in Islam is just in Bukhari. And all of the fiqh of Islam isn't included in just the 4 imams. That's the moral of the story. And from that is this great imam here, ad-Daraqutni of the 4th century. He says, Mawliduhu sanata sittin wa thalathmiyah. He was born in the year 306. سمع من عوالم وبرع في هذا الشأن. قال الحاكم صار الدارقطني أوحد عصره في الحفظ والفهم والورع وإماما في القراءة والنحو وله مصنفات يطول ذكرها وأشهد أنه لم يخلق على أديم الأرض مثله. So he was born in the year 306 and his status was well known. Al-Hakim Abu Abdullah An-Naysaburi, who died in the very early beginning of the 5th century, 405 to be exact, he said that Daraqutni was totally alone. No one came close to him. No one was near him. And memorization, memory power, understanding, intelligence, and also piety. Piety. All right? The knowledge with the righteousness. He was a master of recitation, al-qira'at, the qira'at, modes of recitation, Arabic grammar, and he had many, many books that he wrote. We don't have enough time to mention them, he says. Hakim, listen to this now. And Hakim was a great, great, great mountain of knowledge. And Hakim said about him, I bear witness, there hasn't been a man on the face of the earth similar to him. La ilaha illallah. Lam yukhlaq ala adim al-ardi mithluhu. There's never been a man created on earth that could come close to him. Allahul musta'an. وقال الخطيب كان فريد عصره وإمام وقته وانتهى إليه علم الأثر والمعرفة بالعلل وأسماء الرجال مع الصدق والثقة وصحة الاعتقاد. Khatib al-Baghdadi of the 4th century, or the 5th century, 463 or 465, he said, that ad-Daraqutni was Farid Asrihi. He was by himself, once again. He was in a class by himself. He was peerless. No one could rival him. He was the Imam of his time. He was the standard with regards to the knowledge of Hadith and the knowledge of the hidden defects of Hadith and the names of the narrators, the men of Hadith. And he was truthful. He was not a liar. He was trustworthy. And most important, he says, his creed was sound. He had the aqeedah of the salaf, the aqeedah of the athar. He did not have a funny aqeedah, a wiggly aqeedah sitting with him, or maybe figurative interpretation, these people, these leaders, these scholars, this sultan, none of that. He didn't deal with rhetoric and kalam and interpreting Allah's attributes, none of that stuff. The Quran is created, he didn't deal with none of that. صحة الاعتقاد. His aqidah was straight as an arrow. وقد أطال أئمة الحديث الثناء على هذا الرجل وكانت وفاته في 8 ذي القعدة سنة 85 و300. And the scholars of Hadith have spoken very highly of him. He died on the 8th day of Dhul Qa'dah, 385 of the Hijrah. So there is a brief biography of ad-Daraqutni. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have mercy upon him. And you can clearly see how high powered he was. And hopefully you can clearly see why we're so passionate and adamant about getting the people to know these imams, these other imams, and that Islam is a religion like no other, and Hadith is a field and a discipline like no other. And there were countless imams before, during, and after Bukhari rahimahullah ta'ala. May Allah be pleased with them all. So that is the compiler, and he has a Sunan. Is the book in English? I haven't seen it. Does the book need to be in English? Not necessarily, for reasons that we'll explain very shortly. بإسناد ضعيف, he says with a weak chain. وأخرجه البيهقي أيضا بإسناد الدارقطني وفي الإسنادين معنا القاسم بن محمد بن عقيل وهو متروك وضعف أحمد وابن معين وغيرهما وعاد ابن حبان في الثقات لكن الجارح أولى وانكثر المعدل وهنا الجارح أكثر وصرح بضعف الحديث جماعة من الحفاظ كالمنذري وابن الصلاح والنووي وغيرهم. And then when he said that this hadith, its chain is weak, every single Muslim should know that a hadith has two parts: isnad and matan. Chain of reporters, chain of narrators, and it has the matan, the actual wording of the hadith, what the Prophet ﷺ is quoted to have said, to have done, to have allowed, to have looked like, or walked like, or ate like, or behaved, etc. The matan, the actual report itself. So he says that the chain is weak. And the reason why the chain is weak is the narrator's name is Qasim ibn Muhammad ibn Aqil. Many great scholars of Jarh wa Ta'deel of Ilm al-Rijal, they made disparaging remarks about him, declaring that he was an unreliable narrator, matruk, abandoned. He's very weak. And some scholars said that he was a thiqah, or mentioned him to be among the thiqat, the trustworthy narrators, but the correct view is that he was very weak. Now you may ask the question, well, if the chain of narration is weak, why is he in the book? First and foremost, and this is one of the things that sets Bukhari aside from others, is that these different hadith compilers, they did not make a condition only to collect genuine reports. That was not their condition. No doubt Daraqutni knew that the hadith was weak, but his book wasn't just only for authentic and sound hadith, genuine hadiths. As we have explained before, there are different levels and there are different classes of hadith compilations. So he did not deal only with sound hadiths. Weak hadiths were quoted, and ad-Daraqutni in his book of Sunan, in most cases, he clarifies it. And he explains the different awjuhul khilaf or al-ikhtilaf, how the narrators differed, and this one is weak, so on and so forth. Tayyib, khayran insha'Allah ta'ala. So the chain of narration is weak. Next question is, why did Hafidh ibn Hajar mention in the book? He mentioned it in his book Bulughul Maram to show you that this is one of the most popular proofs for this issue. Sanani states, قال المصنف ويغني عنه حديث أبي هريرة عند مسلم أنه توضأ حتى أشرع في العضد وقال هكذا رأيت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم توضأ. الحديث قلت ولو أتى به هنا لكان أولى. The author, Hafidh ibn Hajar, meaning in other books, in another book, he says that there was another hadith that suffices. There's no need to mention this here. There's a hadith that takes the place of this very weak one here, the narration of Jabir. And that is the narration of Abu Hurairah in Sahih Muslim, that the Prophet, that Abu Hurairah made wudu, And he began wiping his arms until he reached his biceps, the muscles on his arms. Afterwards, he said, this is exactly how he saw the Messenger of Allah, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, performing wudu. This is how I saw the Prophet performing wudu. So this is authentic in Sahih Muslim, proving that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam wiped the elbows. He made wudu past the elbows, tayyib, including the forearms. So in brief and to simplify things, when you're performing wudu, you are to wash from your fingertips to your elbows. Washing from the fingertips to the elbows, that isn't in the beginning of wudu. And we've explained that mistake and that danger. Some people, they wash their hands at the beginning of wudu, and then when it comes to washing the arms, meaning after the mouth and the nose, after the face, they then only wipe from the wrist to the elbows, and that's a mistake. Washing the hands at the beginning of wudu is a recommended act. It's a sunnah. It's not obligatory. So the sunnah washing cannot take the place of the obligatory washing. So when you wash your arms, you're to wash from your fingertips to your elbows. All of your forearm with your fingertips, with your hands, in between your fingers. Naam. يا أيها الذين آمنوا, or you believe, بإذا قمتم إلى الصلاة فاغسلوا وجوهكم وأيديكم إلى المرافق. Wipe your arms all the way up until the elbows, along with the elbows. So that all of that is to be washed from fingertips, hands, wrist, forearm, all the way to the elbow. And the recommended thing to do is to wash until you get to your bicep. Naam. Sanani concludes the chapter by stating, وَلَوْ أَتَى بِهِ هُنَا لَكَنْ أَوْلَى. And Hafiz bin Hajar, he should have just mentioned that here. And instead of mentioning the narration of Jabir at the weak hadith, there was no need for that. Wallahu ta'ala alam. Wa sallallahu sallam wa barak ala abdi wa rasulih nabina wa imamina Muhammad.